Since the early 2000s, universities across the Western world have been pushing the fallacy of inclusion. The fundamental principles behind inclusion have some moral validity. For example, giving disadvantaged people opportunities, giving refugees a place to live, and promoting opportunities for women in male-dominated fields. However, the ideology as it is taught and practiced is deeply flawed. To include these groups, others have to be excluded. It is this paradox that is tearing the inclusion ideology apart.
If you hear people mouth those words, equity, diversity, inclusivity, you know who you're dealing with. And you should step away from that because it's not acceptable. It's a mask of virtue, that's it. And underneath it is something that's truly awful.
Any reasonably minded person can see the hypocrisy in the way that inclusion policies are applied. Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Your comments and likes are also valued. To make inclusion work, the woke institutions that preach it have had to devise reasons to justify excluding the people that they despise. They achieve this by judging everyone on an oppression scale. Basically, some groups deserve inclusive treatment and some do not. At some prestigious Ivy League universities in America, white and Asian students must achieve higher scores than that of minority students to gain entry. This is justified as positive discrimination in order to advance people from minority backgrounds. It is interesting that although Asian students are from a racial minority, they don't feature highly on the oppression scale. This is because Asian cultures value education and tend to be more affluent than other minorities.
This morning, Yale University is defending itself in a battle that could have major consequences for the future of affirmative action. The Justice Department is accusing the prestigious Ivy League school of violating federal civil rights law by discriminating against Asian Americans and white applicants. There is no such thing as a nice form of race discrimination, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights said in a statement, adding unlawfully dividing Americans into racial and ethnic blocks fosters stereotypes, bitterness, and division.
Staying on education, it is considered to be an exclusionary practice to send students out of a classroom for disciplinary reasons, even if that student is disrupting the learning of their classmates. This demonstrates the paradox of inclusion. A disruptive student is excluding their classmates from their learning, but it is considered exclusionary to remove the student. They are putting the feelings of one person who is in the wrong above that of an entire group. In the world of business, several companies who want to virtue signal how moral they are actively limit or exclude white people when it comes to job opportunities.
Certainly, there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Just kind of unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
how would they say it?
There's no way we're hiring a white male person.
This has become so widespread and acceptable that some employers actively admit to not hiring white people.
Validate has a team of mostly all people of color. We have no white people on our team. I did that because I wanted to create a safe environment. And I know the best way for an environment to be safe is to be around people who are just like me.
If the races were reversed, this would be considered a highly racist and backwards practice. However, as ever, universities justify this practice by teaching that you can't be racist against white people.
All white people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, oh, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because I believe that white people are born into not being human, like that actually instead of people of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a life to not be human, and that's what y'all are taught to do, to be demons. So in this particular way, white people are all racist. So I just want y'all to know that up front.
Can you be racist to white people?
No.
Why not?
Listen, educate yourself on racism. You cannot be racist to white people.
But how? Why?
If you look it up, you'll understand.
Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? It is okay to be white.
No, that's not okay. It's terrible to be white. Too much to be white. That's awful.
Why is it not okay to be white?
Y'all have done too much. I would rather
people?
Yeah, as a whole.
Too much good or too much bad?
Too much bad.
What should white people do about that?
Try not to be white.
There are times when hiring someone based on their race is acceptable. For instance, if a government department is hiring someone to be a liaison for an ethnic or indigenous group, it would be beneficial for the applicant to be from said ethnic or indigenous group. Most people would not have an issue if employers want to create additional positions to hire diverse staff. But to have quotas when searching for staff and excluding applicants based on their race, gender, sexuality, religious or political beliefs is both morally wrong and in many cases illegal.
A senior State Department official broadly distributed what I consider to be a very troubling email. I have a copy of that email next to me. Let me read from a part of the email. The email says that hiring practices have developed inside the State Department so that, and I'll quote, that certain candidates could not be hired because they have a disability. They are white men. They are straight white men. They are not of the, quote, right religion. All of these are verbatim quotes. Your mandate is to promote a concept on the left called equity, which I think is nothing more than brazen discrimination.
Entire industries are looking to make their workforce more diverse and inclusive. While this might sound admirable, this policy could have several serious consequences. When hiring anyone, the focus should be on their qualifications and experience, not their skin color, gender, sexuality, or religion. This is particularly important for roles such as a pilot or a surgeon. Hiring someone who is less qualified increases the risk of serious incidents occurring.
Human error led to the catastrophic grounding and sinking of the HMNZS Manawanui in Samoa last month, according to the Court of Inquiry into the maritime disaster. It found that there was a series of human errors. Pacific correspondent Barbara Drever looks at what went wrong and the ongoing impact of the wreck.
When the lawsuits start rolling in, these inclusion policies will be promptly scrapped. Hopefully, the people responsible for these inclusion policies will be held to account. Thankfully, several major companies are moving away from diversity, equity, and inclusion. Major companies such as Walmart, the Ford Motor Company, Lowe's, Harley-Davidson, and Toyota have reduced or cancelled sponsorship of Pride events and refused to maintain diversity quotas. These companies are the first of many that will see increased profitability as a result of abandoning DEI. One of the battlegrounds of the culture wars has been the stance on immigration and refugees. The ideology of inclusion teaches that anyone is welcome, except, of course, if you are a white South African escaping racial persecution. They promote the ludicrous idea of having countries without borders in order to be more inclusive. These woke, so-called university sociology professors are so ignorant that they have not learnt from the recent past. Did they learn nothing from the events of September 11th? Not all people have good intentions. Some people look for ways to exploit us, and others mean to harm us.
I love illegal immigrants. Yeah, sue me now. Sometimes I go down to Dover for the day, right? And I look out, right? I look for a boat, and I see a dinghy with about 60 of them, and I go over here, like, right? And I pull them into shore, and I go, women and children first. They go, there are no women and children. Just you lads, is it? Just come on, lads. Come on, lads.
Yes, and when we talk about the idea of safety, they say, oh, but legal migration is so much higher. We should worry about them. At least legal migrants, we know who they are. They're vetted in some way or form. A lot of these illegal migrants crossing the channel, they destroy their documentation. They tend to come from regions of the world that are hotbeds for religious extremism. Many of them, the vast majority of them, are working age males. You're trying to tell communities, women and children, that they should feel safe with having unvetted, mainly males from dangerous parts of the world coming into the communities,
living up in hotels, taking over their local communities. And the Labour Party has nothing to do, has basically no plan to solve this. They scrapped the Rwanda scheme. They continue to hand out hotels and benefits to these illegal aliens, while people in this country struggle to heat their homes or to find housing or even to feed their families. It is a complete and utter joke.
The rise of ISIS in the 2010s saw a massive influx of refugees from the Middle East into Europe and the Western world. At the time, German Chancellor Angela Merkel encouraged all European nations to take in their share of refugees. While helping to save the lives of hundreds of thousands of people is a very noble and moral thing to do, the clash of cultures has caused several social problems. In the past, wars in other parts of the world have little or no impact on day-to-day life in Western countries. But with the substantial increase in Middle Eastern migration to the West, their problems have now become our problems.
We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar!
The recent conflict in Gaza has triggered protests all over the world in the Arabic and Islamic communities. While many of these have been peaceful, there have been several unsavory incidents occurring during the protests. Anti-Semitic chants and slogans are being displayed. Rioting has occurred. Monuments are being defaced. Even something as innocuous as Christmas trees are being vandalized. This is incredibly disrespectful to the countries that allowed these people to live there.
Britain, like America and France, are the most desired destinations for migrants worldwide and have been for centuries. Why is that? It's not because we're racist, it's because we're better. It's because we're good. It's because when we see racism, we actually call it out and recognize it as a sin. Try finding that across Africa. Try finding that across the Middle East or in China. Nobody would hear. So what we have is a situation where the more virtuous countries are presented as the worst countries. It's sick, and most of us are tired of it.
Most people do not have an issue with migration if the immigrants embrace their new country.
Our fathers have come from a different country to here. We were born here. We are British, Pakistanis, we are Muslims. We will stand here. We will fight against EDL.
Is this the kind of society we want to become? Why would Western nations want to become more like the countries that these people fled from? But all too often, Western countries are changing their customs and laws to accommodate the migrants. This dilutes and degrades Western culture. As they populate Western countries, they can start to use the political system to pass regressive laws, as we have seen in England.
The reason the practice is so common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure financial foothold.
British MP Naz Shah made inflammatory comments about British teens who were being sexually assaulted by a gang of migrants. She said, "Those abused girls in Rotherham and elsewhere just need to shut their mouths for the good of diversity." This example again highlights the hypocrisy of inclusion. Females have been encouraged to come forward and report sexual abuse, but are also told to shut up for the sake of diversity. Thankfully, the clueless woke mob that is screaming for inclusion and diversity is being vilified by the very people that they are trying to represent. They have fought for the plight of Gaza, only to be rejected by the Muslim community.
These two groups of people, who do you think is more likely to be supportive of LGBT rights? It's Trump supporters and Hamas and Hezbollah.
Gaza.
You think these people are more likely that number one?
Yeah.
What if I told you I have a video of Hezbollah, the guy that runs the whole thing, saying that he wants homosexuals killed? From the first time they do it, even if they're unmarried, they should be killed.
So I'd rather take them over Trump supporters, TBH.
Yeah? After what I just showed you? So you'd rather Hamas than Trump?
Yes.
Muslims often take the side of the left, not because they agree with them, but because woke culture is sympathetic to minorities. A local council that was elected in Michigan that is made up of predominantly Muslim councillors banned the pride flag from all government buildings.
In 2015, woke progressives helped the first ever Muslim council get elected in the United States in the city of Hamtramck in Michigan. The Muslim council immediately turned around and banned pride flags.
You don't see my family sitting there putting the flag and say, I'm going to put the Lebanese flag down your throat. You keep your flag, you want to put it at your house, put it at your house. Do not put it on city property and do not put it in our schools. Yes, nice and simple.
Much liberal screeching ensued.
It is clear that you are either ignorant or hateful and spiteful.
This is an example of woke culture not having a shred of foresight, common sense, or well-grounded principles. The unregulated application of inclusion policies that have been rolled out across the Western world, whose sole purpose is to promote minorities, has neglected the fact that in a Western democracy, the majority rules. This was evident in the 2024 US election when voters prioritized issues that affect the vast majority of people, such as cost of living and jobs over issues of diversity and inclusion. Hopefully our societies have learnt from the stupidity and hypocrisy of inclusion and will treat people on their merits instead of their oppression score. Excluding someone because they are a minority is wrong. Including someone purely because they are from a minority is equally wrong. If you have watched this video all the way to the end, please consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you.